Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me, as always, I have a Jer.
Hello.
An Alex.
Hi.
And a Ben.
Hello, yes, I am Wheeler.
Want to remind you that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support at the Patreon over at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Let's start it off with our opening segment, the best card that you're not playing. Up today, I've got Alex. Alex, show me your secrets.
How much stuff can you fit in one card?
Like, are we looking at rules text spaghetti? Or
No,
like
just
keywords
everything.
forever? All right, I want to hear it.
We're talking about your girl, Scrip Ranger.
Oh, there's a lot on that one.
Yeah.
This card is very concentrated. From Time Spiral. 1 and a green gets you a fairy.
Okay.
This is a little weird for green, but it's
Old school.
it's a 1/1 with, let's count it, flash,
Okay.
flying,
Yep.
protection from blue,
Okay.
and a big column of text that's better than it looks like.
It is much better than it looks
It
like.
has an activated ability, return a forest you control to its owner's hand, untap target creature, play this ability only once per each turn.
And it's a 1/1.
I said that.
So why is that good? Tell me about this ability.
So you can use this ability. Untapping creatures, like at the baseline, it's like, oh, you can give something vigilance. It's like,
Sure.
all right. Or you could untap a mana dork. Or a creature with an interesting activated ability. Or.
Yeah.
Since this has flash, you can use it as a combat trick as well. You
Yeah.
can cast this before blockers, untap your big creature, block their...
This thing messes up Vendilion Click in combat. Just like comes down, punches the click. Nothing.
But also, bouncing that forest, if you have a land drop up, you can use this thing to like soft ramp and just like get an extra mana out. There's like corner cases where you could protect a forest that a thing is going to happen to, but it also is just a flash creature with evasion. Also Rebecca Gayart.
Yeah.
Dear, it's so yeah. The card's good. I've been actually considering jamming this in Black Mold. You know, just as a like weird techie creature, because this shows up more frequently in like Hoof
Yeah, it's
to try and like hit extra land drops.
Well, and you
and
you're
ramp.
when you're
Yeah.
untapping, you're untapping things like Elvish Archdruid and Priest of Titania.
Which generate, yeah.
Raphaelos that are... So, like, untapping that creature is plus 4 or 5 mana sometimes. So.
So, but
It's
yeah,
all-
there's a lot of good stuff going on in this card.
I think it's better to think of it in through a combo lens than sort of an aggro value lens. You know, if you're playing Scrip Ranger, you're probably doing something fairly broken with the activated ability.
I actually think it's a reasonable value card in almost any green-white deck. You just get things like Fauna Shaman, so you can get just
Double tutor.
super toolboxy. It's insane with Knight of the Reliquary.
I'm also not even that sad to give this thing a GT.
No, not at all. And if you have this thing with Mother of Runes, all your creatures are like virtually unkillable forever unless they have a Wrath.
I never thought of that. Holy moly.
It's the classic Legacy Maverick interaction.
That's spicy.
Well,
You get lots of newer players. You have a Mother of Runes in play, and then you green in Maverick. You green Sun Zenith for 2, and they're like getting like
Scavenging ooze?
or some decks play a one of Tarmogoyf or something, and then you just
Yeah.
get this. And then they
like-
stare at their like lightning bolts and dismembers, and you're just like,
I'm immortal now.
Scrip Ranger, much like Quirion Ranger, kind of the original version of this card, is the classic. Your opponent will read this 4 times and then still misplay.
I'm feeling very attacked right now.
So anyway,
Let's move on to today's theme. Today, we're going to talk about that fancy new set, Return to Ravnica 2 Allegiances. And with most of our set reviews, it is a reminder that this is going to be through a Highlander lens. This is not exhaustive. We're not talking about every card, only ones that we are either excited for or that we think are worthy of discussion. Today's goal is going to be
WUBRG.
just WUBRG. There's a lot of gold cards. We're probably going to do a part 2 later on and just cover that stuff. And then a reminder, it's not, is this card good in draft? Is this card powerful? Specifically, are we going to jam it in Highlander? Or what deck do we think it's going to fall on? So without further ado, stretch for time slightly while my page loads, let's talk about our first card, Impassioned Orator. This is a 2/2 for 1 and a white. It's a human cleric. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, gain a life. Jared, you want to start us off?
yeah, this card's kind of like another
Soul Sister.
Soul Sister, except it only counts your creatures, and it doesn't count itself. It is a 2/2, which is better than a 1/1, but 2 mana is worse than 1 mana. So I don't know if this is going to see any play. The Soul Sisters don't see very much play in our format.
Yeah. Well, I added this card specifically wondering if we have enough life gain now to make that a deck.
I think Soul Sisters is 100% a deck.
Yeah.
It's a deck that doesn't get a lot of love because it seems just like a cheeky thing you throw together to meme on people.
Well, I've built it before, and if you just really want to send a red player to the Shadow Realm, like, just make them want to die.
Yeah, your deck has like 7 core Firewalkers in it, basically. And the incidental life gain is fine. I think a lot of people tend to overrate cards that just have life gain attached to them.
Sure.
And a lot of the cards, their individual power level isn't very high, but when you get them together and you have enough payoffs, be it something like Resplendent Angel, Johnny's Pride Mate, whatever it may be,
Karlov.
you can actually, put out something that poses a threat. This card's fine in that deck. That's
Next up, we have Tithe Taker. This is another 2-power, 2/1, except, sorry, I was going to try and segue, but I failed. 2 mana for a 2/1 human soldier for 1 and a white. During your turn, spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. It also has Afterlife. Alex, you seem excited. Tell me about this card.
Gimme. I want it.
For what deck?
White Weenie and Aristocrats.
Yeah?
I think this card, I mean, it's a great hate piker, technically speaking. But it having Afterlife 1 means that it has 2 bodies.
Alex, what does Afterlife do?
Well, reading the anyway, it's when this creature dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit token with flying.
Yeah, the new Orzhova mechanic seems so spicy for Aristocrats.
It's really good. So you have a perfectly good hate bearer. It's a human and a soldier for the relevance that could have.
No, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, there's two bodies, and one is like as good, if not better. Like it trades 1 point of power for evasion when it dies.
Just really quickly to add on, this card isn't actually very good against combo because it's not going to be disruptive at all on your opponent's turn. So it's just going to mess up some of the more control-y mid-range decks and control decks.
Yeah, it's a good way to evaluate it.
It's nice and efficient.
All right, next up, I have Angel of Grace. 5 mana, 5/4 Angel. Flash, flying, and when it enters the battlefield until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 makes it 1 instead. And activated ability, 6 mana, 4 white, exile it from your graveyard, your life total becomes 10. Ben.
I'm very excited to have somebody cast this against me with Lethal Tendrils on the stack, because this only prevents damage reducing your life total, not life loss. I actually don't think this card's super good. Like it has all the makings of a card that seems like it would be powerful or niche in a combo format, in an aggressive format, but like the mana cost for this card is just so clunky as a defensive option. Flash, flying, and 5 power, that's great. Like maybe that's enough to actually just put this
That's
card.
what I thought. Is that baseline good
Yeah,
enough?
that's fine, but I think that limits it to Mana Crypt decks, Soul Ring decks, stuff that can power this out ahead of the curve. The activated ability is kind of, a little bit of pepper on the salad there, but it's what, oh, don't give me that look. But other than that, like I don't know if I'm building a deck, unless I'm really looking to sleeve up Angel Stompy. Like, I'd rather just go to something like Archangel Avacyn.
Sure. All right, next card should be Jared, but I'm going to throw it to Alex because I bet you he's excited about this too. I have Hero of Precinct 1. This is a 2/2 for 1 and a white, human warrior. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a 1/1 human token. Is Aristocrat stoked for this card?
I don't know that it is. I mean,
why not? You get so many bodies.
I mean, you have some amount of multicolored spells, but like a lot of them are monocolored. Ben, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, I feel well. I just feel like this is a running joke within this set. I mean, most sets. Every time a set comes out, anytime there's a card that's a creature or a non-blue card that generates any form of value, you'll have 3 comments from people saying, "Oh, this is great in Aristocrats." And especially for this set, where there are genuinely a lot of cards that are upgrades.
There's a few that are crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that this is one of them, unfortunately.
No, like there's Aristocrats is typically a 4-color or 3-color deck, but not a
actual
huge amount of
colors.
multicolored spells, or at least not enough to justify running a 2-mana 2/2 that doesn't do anything by itself, which is one of the appeals of Aristocrats, is that just like your 2-drops are dummies that a control player is like, I don't want to burst lightning this.
Sure.
I don't want to get rid of this.
Yep.
Anywhere else this finds a home?
In Highlander, I don't know. I could see this making its way to like maybe a standard or even a modern deck that can play more ways to have it proc. But I don't know.
I could see it in 5-color zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a warrior.
It
You're
is a
playing
warrior.
Magilla. Yeah.
It's a warrior. There's a lot of good multicolored warriors.
Terra.
Yeah, like that's fine.
Maybe not enough for 100, but warrior is one of those creature types where you really got to keep tabs on it every single set because
It's
we're
close.
getting there.
It's
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my
I
goodness,
have.
Warrior Tribal.
All right, well,
Let's move on to our next card. I worry that I may have passed our wonderful Beej a typo here. Is it Lumbering Battlement or is it Lumbering Battlement?
Lumbering.
I'm sorry, Beej, I set you up for failure. But you got there anyways. Lumbering Battlement is a 5-mana 4/5 beast for 4 and white. It has Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-token creatures you control until it leaves the battlefield. It gets +2/+2 for each card exiled. Jer.
We were trying to figure out if you could go, like, do some weird combo loop with this card.
I think, can you do the same combo with this as Angels of Glory Rise? If you have this and like a Banisher Priest, can they flicker each other over and over if you have a sack outlet as well?
No, because if you have sack outlet, one of them goes to the graveyard. And that breaks the loop.
Right.
This is just like one of those mounts from WoW. Like one of those big dum-dums that just has like a shop on one side.
Yeah.
It's a super cool card. I don't see the applicability to Highlander
The loop,
jumping
yeah.
out at me.
I feel there might be a loop here. Not yet?
Okay, but why?
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, I feel like there's better things you can be doing
All right.
than like
Especially for
maybe
fun,
ascend. Like if you have this plus Resto plus, like Ben was saying, Fiend Hunter. Is that a loop?
Oh, I didn't even know. I threw a bunch of cards. I think it works. Resto Angel, Fiend Hunter, and like a Soul Warden or something like that.
That's a
can
lot of
loop.
cards.
But yeah, it's just like you're adding like
'Cause,
10 plus mana, a bunch of these cards that are like, Fiend Hunter, Resto Angel, great on their own. Let's throw in a 1-mana 1/1 and a 5-mana 4/5.
Yeah, if you have one of Resto or Fiend Hunter in play, then you play this, then you play the other of Resto Fiend Hunter. I think that works, but
Sure.
that gives you a bunch of DTBs. Then you need another thing to go with it, and
All
that
right.
seems
Why?
too
I don't know. I thought
Why?
maybe it'd be a thing. I just wanted to have the conversation that there could be a new combo piece, and maybe you're like, Sandra Bullock loves this card, and I wouldn't have known that, which is why I wanted to have this conversation. Let's move on.
Sandy B, no want.
Sandy B, know what? Let's move on to blue. First card I want to talk about in blue is Precognitive Perception. 5-mana instant for 3 blue, draw 3. Addendum, which means if you cast it during your main phase, you get to do another thing. You get to scry 3 and then draw 3. Alex.
I don't know anything about draw cards, but this is good.
Jer.
I was going
Wait, there's one that's just like this that people used to play Jace's Ingenuity.
Yeah, I was going to say
it was exactly this card.
This is the best Jace's Ingenuity they've printed, as far as I can tell.
I think Ancestral Recall might be the best.
Okay, fine.
For the same cost, like Harmonize is also
Yeah.
better.
Well, Mystic Confluence is just like if you're
Mystic Confluence is better.
If you're looking to slot an expensive draw spell like this, like I was talking with somebody about this in Paradox Academy as an option, just because you're usually casting these spells on your main phase. The Scry is nice because decks like that have so much chaff in it, just like getting necessary mana rocks or additional lands to the bottom. But I would just much rather have the flexibility of Mystic Confluence, being able to get rid of a Hate Bear and whatnot. And I don't feel like a lot of decks have room to slot multiple copies of that style of card.
Sure. This card you don't think is good enough to be one of the high payoff draw spells in the late game for a big blue deck?
There's just so many better options, I feel.
Yeah, if you want a second 5-mana one instead of, like, some of the control decks will play 2 big draw spells. It's possible you play this in Mystic Confluence instead of, like, Mystic Confluence and Sphinx's Revelation, or Mystic Confluence and Pull from Tomorrow.
Expanse Explosion.
Expansion Explosion,
Sure.
yeah.
That one, yeah.
That's also possible.
Yeah, that one's real good. All right. Next card we have is the Terra Mandor? Did I pronounce that right?
Terra Mandor, yeah.
Nailed it in one.
Well, okay.
Salamander Drake.
This card's great.
Oh, that was...
This
it
one's
to Ben.
super good. All right. So 1 mana, 1/1 for a single blue. It's a Salamander Drake that flies. So we got that flying person body right now. But there's more. 8 mana, so 7 in a blue. Adapt 4. Adapt is a new Simic ability that says basically adapt and put that many +1/+1 counters onto it.
If
But
it has no counters.
If it has no counters. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each instant in sorcery in your graveyard. Ben?
So, for those of you familiar with either the last set review that we did, or if you've been on the Facebook page and have seen any time a new set comes out, the best card in every single set is always the Flying Men, the Suntail Hawk, a 1-mana flying creature for 1. Got a
Okay.
soft spot in my heart. But here's the thing. This card actually might be one of the best cards in the set.
Yeah.
Yes.
Legitimately.
This ability is kind of messed up. Like, it's not as, there's a lot of talk about, oh my god, you're gonna pay 2 mana for a 5/5 flyer, and I don't know how realistic that's going to be at least within the first 4 or 5 turns of the game. But it will happen.
Yeah.
Drawing this late game, oh great, I just got a flying Gurbag Angler.
Yeah.
That you can activate if you reach that 7 instant or sorcery in the graveyard, or even just paying 2 mana to do this.
And really dumb with that.
Oh yeah, you go to activate it and they're like, oh, I'll bolt it, and you're like, okay, respond.
Activate again.
Activate again, because there's no restriction on how often you can activate this.
Yeah. It'll just fizzle if there's a +1/+1
Yeah,
counter. You can activate it if
the
you want.
only gripe I have with this card is
Yeah.
that before we got the official name, it was just known as Salamander Drake.
That's why I thought we had missed it.
Gotcha.
And I was like, what the heck's a Pteramander? Yeah.
It's so good.
Thoughts Cower just keeps getting better and better.
This card is so good. You slot it in Flying Men, you slot it in a variety of tempo decks.
Is it Blitz, maybe?
Oh yeah, the Blitz decks for sure. This card's kind of messed up. Like, I don't want to get too like best card of the set. Everything, let's go home, everybody.
But it's very good.
But like, yeah, it's hard to not get super enthused about a card that is up in that discussion of like Delver of Secrets and Gurmag Angler.
All right, let's move on to our next card, Mass Manipulation. X, blue, 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 blue. Blue, 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 blue. Blue, 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 blue. 4 blues. Sorcery, gain control of X target creatures and or planeswalkers. Alex, what do you think about this card?
I love this artwork so much.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this in Seinfeld. No?
Sorcery, no bueno.
This costs approximately $1 million.
And like, if you need to gain control of more than one creature in Seinfeld, the game has just gone so horribly wrong that you take your losses if more than one creature resolves.
Yeah, what have you been doing if your opponent gets more than one creature in play? Or, God forbid, a planeswalker.
It's all over.
And I suppose there's not really any room for this in High Tide, the other deck that would be able to create that much mana.
I actually think the only place you want to play it is in like a non-combo Academy list.
Right! The other deck that can create tons of blue mana.
Like the problem with slotting this in like just a big blue kind of Academy shell, it's just like if you're getting to that much mana, typically that happens before your opponent gets planeswalkers or creatures in play, or their planeswalkers and creatures are just invalidated by how big or impressive your own threats are. It's like, if I'm dumping this much mana into a spell, I'd rather it just be Treachery to untap my own land, or Bribery to get their actual best creature into play.
I don't know. I could see it. It's just like, you often have those turns where like it's like you have a bunch of mana, they have a big board, they're going to kill you next turn. You either need to like present a massive threat or like upheaval or something, and this is sort of like it like functions as an upheaval in that deck. You just like, you don't bounce everything, but you just like take all the
the power is definitely there. It's just my biggest concern is that it feels like it's third in line for every kind of role it's trying to fill. So again, like if I wanted the take their creature thing, it's behind Bribery and Treachery. If I wanted a protect myself from losing to all these goons on the other side of the board, then like Cyclonic Rift or Upheaval come to mind.
Sure, I just think it does both those things, which is like,
yeah, maybe it gets a slot from that.
All right. We'll move on to our next card. We have Sphinx of Foresight. 4 mana, 4/4 Sphinx. You may reveal this card in your opening hand. If you do, scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. Flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Jer.
it's hard to evaluate this card in Highlander, I think, just because you like don't, on average, don't have a single card in your opening hand as often as you do in a 4 of 60 card format. So, like, you're not going to play it for that first ability. So you're basically just judging it on the other 2 abilities, which are fine. But I think you're playing cards like Curator of Mysteries over it almost every time, and that card doesn't see much play either. So I don't think it'll be good enough, but like it's a fine card. It's a 4 mana 4/4 flyer with upside. Like, that's not the worst.
Cool. Next up, we have Mesmerizing Benefit. This is a 5 mana 4/5 octopus for 3 blue. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 0/2 illusion tokens with whenever this creature blocks a creature, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, and the Mesmerizing Benefit has hexproof as long as you control an illusion. I'm actually going to throw this to Jer because Jer added it, and I'm curious as to where does this find a home?
I'm super stoked to play this in blue midrange and especially blue creature-based strategies. This card just brick walls aggro, and it makes Phantasmal Image insane, because if you Phantasmal Image this, it's an illusion. So both your Mesmerizing Benefits always have hexproof until they manage to remove a 4/5 hexproof creature, which is very difficult. It's awesome with recursion. It's awesome with flickering. It's just like got so much upside. It's 4/9 worth of stats. It's really good against big creatures because they don't want to attack their big creatures into an 0/2 and get their big creature frozen for a turn. I just think this card has so much value attached to it. It's like a wall.
It's right on curve after opposition as well.
Makes 3 bodies.
Oh, wow. All right, and our last blue card that I want to talk about today is the Shimmer of Possibility. 2 mana sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is Sorcery Impulse, Ben. And I'm going to throw to Alex next because I got a spicy card for you.
So there was a lot of discussion about whether Sorcery Speed Impulse actually sees any kind of play. I will gladly slot this into combo strategies. Combo decks already play Anticipate, which is Impulse, but you only see 3 cards. And Sorcery Speed doesn't really matter that much. It's sometimes it's actually just beneficial to just Impulse on your own turn to make sure it resolves, it sticks around, or there's no awkward disruption from your opponent's side. I don't know if I would jam this in control decks or tempo deck. Definitely not tempo decks, but I don't know if I jam this in control decks. I feel like Impulse, at least personally, Impulse might see more play than deserving in those decks. It's not a super high impact card, but yeah, combo decks for sure will jam this.
Yeah, this might be the final nail in Telling Time's coffin.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Final nail.
All right, let's move on to black, and I have a spicy card to start us off. It is the Spawn of Mayhem.
Ooh, wow.
4 mana, 4/4 demon, but wait, Spectacle, the, what's the word I'm looking for? Rakdos mechanic. For 1 black, so 3 mana, you may cast a spell for its Spectacle cost rather than its mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. Flying, trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then, if you have 10 or less life, put a +1/+1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. Alex.
Get him. This card's just, like, it's everything you want out of, like, a really aggressive black card. I like that the retail and discount costs are both perfectly fine. Like, I'd be fairly happy to pay 4 for a 4/4 flample that nugs your opponent every turn. But if you pay 3 for it, well, do you feel like a champ?
Back in my day, not to back in my day, but back in my day, demons had downsides.
Yeah, not so much anymore.
There's no downside
Where's
on this.
the downside?
It hurts you.
And
then it gets
opponent.
better.
Look, there was a time when if your opponent slammed a rumbling slum, you were, which is a 4 mana 5/5, deals 1 damage to each player at your upkeep. Like that was like, oh, they had a rumbling slum. Like this is game over. We've come a long way from them, but look at this.
Yeah, this card's impossibly spicy.
It's gonna stick you.
All right, let's move on to our next card. We have Drillbit. 3 mana sorcery, but Spectacle, 1 mana, single black. Target player reveals their hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. That player discards it. So possibly better Thoughtseize was a lot of discussion. Jer.
I don't think this is going to see that much play. The aggro decks tend to play the discard most of the time, but not even all of it all of the time. And having to rely on hitting your opponent first just opens you up to a bunch of things. You often want to start the turn with discard so you know, like, if they have a Restoration Angel or if they have Settle the Wreckage or if they have something you don't want to attack into, you want to know about it first. And it also helps you plan your turn, whereas having to attack first just limits your options, and casting it for 3 just is not exciting at all.
Yeah, I mean, I want to try this in Black X aggressive decks, but I'll temper my expectations.
I think mono black is the only place I would really expect to see this.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure if it's even worthwhile, but that is definitely a deck that, you know, if you got to cast Coercion, which is just 3 mana Thoughtseize without the life loss, which this card is, then you got to cast Coercion. But I'm with Jer. It's just, it's a little too unreliable.
Next up, we have Gutter Bones. 1 mana, 2/1 Skeleton Warrior for a single black. Enters the battlefield tapped. For 1 and a black, return Gutter Bones from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn, and only if an opponent lost life. Alex.
I think Tragic Hero's out of a job.
Tormented
Hero, that's the one.
Yeah.
This is one of a line of 2/1s with like a sort of downside and a sort of upside. I think it's perfectly playable in like Black X aggro. It's a warrior, which is cool. It's unfortunately not a zombie, but
Where's the downside? This is all upside.
Enters the battlefield tapped.
Well, if anything, that's a positive. This teaches players
Not to
that
block with
blocking
the
is for
2/1s.
cowards, and that
Warriors come out to play.
I can block,
Yeah.
sure, but not the turn you play it, and you will not block. You're going to turn this sideways every single time.
All right.
yeah, no, it's just jam in.
Next up, we have Pestilent Spirit. Uh-oh. Sorry, Beej.
Okay.
Did I spell Pestilent wrong?
No.
3 mana, 3/2 Spirit for 2 and a black. It has Menachet and Death Touch. And instant and sorcery spells you control have Death Touch. Ben.
Initially, I was pretty down on this card just because it's a 3 mana creature that dies to a shock without any immediate impact on the board. But that's a lot of keywords.
Yep.
That's a lot of keywords that can be cast off Mana Crypt. And 3 power at that cost with this tacked on ability that maybe it does something, maybe it doesn't. but I don't know. You could probably get rid of that instant and sorcery thing, and this card might be fine, right?
But it has.
Maybe not. But like the fact that it is there, it kind of extends the playability of this card. I don't think this is going to be breaking any archetypes into the upper echelon of the tier list or anything. But I think this card, I'm higher on this card than I initially was before.
All right. And the last black card to talk about today is the Priest of Forgotten Gods. 2 mana, 1/2 human cleric for 1 and a black. Tap, sack 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2 life and sack a creature. You get to add black and draw a card. Jer.
I actually really like it in Aristocrats. You often have 2 other creatures that you don't mind sacrificing, and the upside of this ability is huge. Aristocrats is really good at creating stalled boards, and this breaks the stall, keeps your card velocity going, which is another big problem the deck has, is that you don't have a way to keep the cards flowing. It helps you cast some harder to cast black spells, which is sometimes an issue for the deck. The mana can be wonky, so I really like it.
Can you activate this ability and include yourself as a target to get 4 black, draw 2, lose 2, sack?
No, because
Any number of target players.
any number of target players each lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature, period.
Oh, sorry, I conflated this.
You don't add 2 black and draw a card per player.
For each player.
If you wanted to, you could put that sacrifice
Yeah, like
trigger
if you
on.
needed to sacrifice another creature, you could target yourself.
Yeah, technically, if you wanted to like get a Zulaport Cutthroat trigger or a Blood Artist trigger off, you could target yourself and
When
Sack 3.
when somebody mentioned this card, they misled me by saying that it can sack itself, and I got really, really excited.
Well, it can as the third creature if you target yourself, but
you
not as part
target
of the cost.
Anyway,
Yeah. All right, let's move on to red. Our first red friend is the Skargan Hellkite. 5 mana, 4/4 Dagron. It has Riot, which is the Gruul mechanic, so it either enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, or has haste. Has flying, as most dragons do, and 4 mana, activated ability for 3 and a red. Deal 2 damage, divided as you choose amongst any 2 targets. Amongst 1 or 2 targets, pardon me. It's any target. Cool. Activate this ability only if Hellkite has a +1/+1 counter. Alex.
this looks really good. I don't know about you guys, but like, the sort of 5 mana haste dragons see play, and of course, if you give this haste, it's only a 4/4. But you can also make it a 5/5 and have this like activated ability that you can just like nug stuff with, which makes that choice of which direction you take Riot in really interesting. I almost feel like you're going to be using haste less frequently as putting the counter on, because it's more useful with the counter on it.
one of the benefits of this card as well that like throws it into the discussion with cards like Glorybringer or Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah.
The other 5 mana dragons, they have like one mode, which is go fast, kill opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can comfortably play this as a 5 mana 5/5 flyer that if you get to untap with it, you're probably winning this game.
Yeah.
But if you need to, you just donk them for 4.
Yeah.
Or don't let a planeswalker.
Yeah, the flexibility on this card, like I think a lot of people will tunnel vision on the activated ability and kind of say like, oh well, if I'm not getting a counter, I'm just playing a 5 mana 4/4 haste flyer,
Which is a good
which is
card.
still fine. Like you get so much more by adding this onto it, and just being able to say like, here's this 5/5 flyer. You probably can't attack into this, and if I untap, you are never going to stick anything relevant for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least, you're going to have a hard time dealing with this. And it offers a mana sink for decks like Jeskai or Grixis Control that if they want these big dragons at their top end, but also need to have enough lands to get to these, and they can flood out, or they just like slide a hand into 2 lands, and they're like, oh, I'm not doing anything.
Coming
or big
soon
red.
to a big red near you.
Yeah, like this card, this is another card where initially I was like, oh, okay, this is just another dragon, but I think this card might actually be one of the best cards in the set.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think Riot is such an insane mechanic for Highlander. It's
Yeah.
so absurd.
It's just like, what upside do you want with a Riot?
I'm gonna die to Riot so much.
Would you like pie or a different
Like
pie?
Riot adding 7, it's like 7 new cards to this set with haste. Like anytime a new decent creature with haste gets added to the game, that's just another thing you have to think about from any opponent with red or green.
Yeah.
Because you just have to be like, all right, what kind of burst, what kind of reach does my opponent have if I'm passing with shields down or, you know, thinking your planeswalker is going to survive?
No.
Like it changes everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Next up, my first card I'm probably going to pronounce wrong. Rix Maddi Relever?
Rick's mod.
Reveler.
Maudie?
Maudie.
Rix Maudie Reveler. 2 mana, 2/2 human shaman for 1 in the red, has Spectacle. And this is interesting because in this case, the Spectacle cost is not a discount, it's more. So Spectacle here is for 4 mana, 2, a black, and a red. Again, activate only Spectacle if your opponent has lost life this turn. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. Or, if you paid the Spectacle cost, discard your hand and draw 3. Ben.
I've had a hard time really evaluating this card in our format, and I don't know if I can actually give the best evaluation without playing this kind of card, because in a 60 card format, I think this card is fantastic. But trying to find a deck where I see this and immediately think, oh yeah, this jumps in. Like, I don't know if you would want this in a Rakdos aggro deck. I'm not sure if you'd want this in like a Jund mid-range deck. But I guess the flexibility of it makes it appealing, but it's just like, to me, this just doesn't really have a home that jumps out to me.
What about the Madness deck?
Please.
All right.
Sorry.
I got a card that I bet you is not going to have a hard time finding a home, and that is Electro Dominance. X red instant. Deal X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost.
Zap.
Chair.
Zap.
This card is really good.
This
it lets
card
you
is really, really
it lets
good.
you break timing restrictions. So you
Yeah.
can cast sorceries on your opponent's turn with this
Oh!
card. You can cast creatures on your opponent's turn with this card.
Oh!
You can cast
Planeswalkers!
planeswalkers on your opponent's turn with this card. It has really interesting combo potential. I know the Scapeshift players locally are really excited to have a card that can, like, you kill their Aven Mind Sensor and Scapeshift them on their end step
And
when they
end
weren't
step
expecting
scape
it.
shift.
It also gets around the suspend cards, so you could like cast this for 0 and cast Ancestral Visions. You can cast it for 0 and Living End if you want to put that card in your deck.
Hypergenesis.
Is Alex having a conniption?
Yes. This is one of those cards that you read and you think it's okay, and then as
okay,
Jer
it's
starts
okay.
giving more and more examples, if you hadn't
Ooh.
sort of clued into that, you're just like, this card in an Eternal format?
If Expansion Explosion, I'm going to call it Expanse Explosion for the rest of my life. If Expanse Explosion...
Just call it Pants Explosion.
If
it's
Pants
fine.
Explosion has shown anything, which it's like, yes, you're drawing cards off this X spell, but like, I feel like there was a long time where just X deal X damage was a thing you would come across in our format. Like the Grixis control decks, the Rug like ramp decks, they would just be like, oh, Banefire you. Or, you know, they would have these big dumb burn spells. But this card is...
The Resurgence.
I hate you so
of
much.
Big Dumbered.
It is like being able to even just do something very like unassuming, like Electro Dominance cast Kodama's Reach, or Thought Seize You. Like 3 mana, kill your Aven Mind Sensor, Thought Seize You, untap, let me resolve my Planeswalker. Let me Demonic Tutor.
Yeah.
Demonic Tutor with this. Like, yeah, great card.
All right. Let's move on. Next up, we have the Emulation Shaman. 2 mana, 1/3 via Shino Shaman for 1 in red. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, the Shaman deals 1 damage to that player. Now, notably, only your opponent. This is not symmetrical, so not one of those hate bears that hates both people. 5 mana, 3 red. It gets +3/+3 and Menacci until end of turn. Alex.
No.
What?
No.
Oh,
That's what he does.
It's a
I
hate
thought you were
Like,
saying
it's
no to
very
the
good. No,
card.
the
yeah.
card's excellent.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want to do a thing.
I don't love it.
Really?
It only has 1 power.
So?
So
It doesn't hit mana abilities.
this is exactly what happened when this card first got previewed. We were at a tournament. This card got previewed. I had a little bit of a breakdown, and everybody else. There was a lot of other people around saying, "What? This card's whatever." But like, as a combo player and as somebody that has to deal with these type of cards, any like just like the redundancy of having this type of effect, even if it just has 1 power, like it's still a threat. Like just playing a 2-drop creature can be more terrifying than whatever blue disruption spell an opponent may have. And like just getting pinged once a turn can make or break winning the game.
This makes me wonder if Boros Hate Bears might be getting closer to being a deck.
I think it's a deck. We do have to move the discussion a little bit faster though.
anyways.
Did you
Beach.
say is this per ability? Like if somebody is trying to activate multiple abilities, they get 1 for each ability.
Every
Yeah.
time they activate it. Yeah. Light Up the Stage is our next red card. This is a 3-mana sorcery for 2 and a red, but spectacle costs single red. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of your next turn. Oh, until the end of your next turn. That's
What?
relevant. You may play those cards. Jer.
I think this card is really good. It's potentially a single red for a draw 2. It says play, so you're able to play lands. It doesn't say cast.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this card is an auto-include in burn/red deck wins. I think this definitely goes into Is It Blitz that just wants to have a really high card velocity and is also going to be able to reliably deal their opponent damage. You could see it if a red-black aggro deck springs up as a
little bit
result
more
of this set, but I think a potential 1-mana draw 2 is great. Potential 3-mana draw 2 isn't the worst. And like, if you don't want to play the cards, you don't need to.
Red divination.
I think this card is great.
All right, next up we have Skewer the Critics. 3 mana. Wait, it's the same thing again. 3 mana sorcery for 2 and a red, or single red spectacle. 3 damage to any target. Sorcery. Alex.
It's another lightning bolt, and this one's half decent.
It's like a rift bolty.
Yeah, it's like a
kinda-
rift bolt. Like this goes on the list of 1 to 2 mana deal 3 damage spells.
Yep, card's great.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
it's good.
BBQ the opponent.
All right, next up, Tin Street Dodger. Best BFFs of the Tin Street Hooligan. Kind of. Single red gets you a 1/1 Goblin Rogue. Has haste. Pay a red this turn. The Tin Street Dodger can't be blocked except by creatures with Defender. Ben.
This card, to me, seems very unassuming at first glance, but I feel like any source of repeatable, unblockable damage on a goblin with haste just built into it is kind of scary. I don't think this card's going to win any awards for, best creature of the set, best red card of the set, anything like that. But it does seem like something people will forget or not give it a shot. But I don't know. These kind of cards slide under the radar until you get killed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, until this comes down, picks up a grafted war gear and crashes into your face.
Yeah, like slap a GT on this, pay a red.
All right, let's move on to green. Our first green card we're going to talk about today is the Incubation Druid. So, for 1 and a green, you get an 0/2 Elf Druid. Tap, add 1 mana of any mana. All right, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Or, if Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana instead. And it has Adapt 5 for 3 green.
Adept 3.
Sorry, Adapt 3, but for 5. Yeah, 3 green, Adapt 3. Jer.
I think this card is potentially really good. Not so much because in Highlander, there's not super easy ways to cheat counters onto things, so you're pretty much just playing it straight up as is. But I think that's fine. It's got 2 relevant creature types, potentially taps for multiple colors of mana, which is really what you need your 2-drop dorks to do. You either want it to tap for different colors and color fix you, or tap for multiple ideally.
Oh, it does both.
Yeah, has the potential to do both, and in the late game, upgrading your mana dork into a 3/5 is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, notably, Adapt doesn't have summoning sickness, so if you have a bunch of mana late game and you draw it, it's just big right away, which is kind of cool.
You can also sort of rebate that cost a little bit. So
Yeah. All right, next up, we have the End Raise Forerunners. Yeah, 8 mana, 7/7 boar for 5 green, green, green. It has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, and when it enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2, Vigilance, and Trample. Vigilance and Trample, Ben Wheeler.
Oh, it's a big pig.
It's a lot of
It's a
bacon.
really big pig.
Here comes the bacon.
Yeah, I really like this card. I mean, you're just going to kill people dead with this card in Hoof. It's another Hoof to find off of Green Sun Zenith. Contrary to popular belief, sometimes the first Hoof doesn't kill someone, or you just need to get a big pack of boars out to, chunk your opponent just a
does
little.
this replace Decimator of the Provinces?
No, it doesn't, Alex. You play all of the pigs. All of them.
You play spaghetti pigs. You play party pigs. Yeah, bring up Decimator of Provinces. It's spaghetti pig.
Spaghetti pig.
Decimator of Provinces.
Spaghetti pig.
Let's see
Yeah.
this. Let's see this photo.
Can we just call it Carbonara?
Spaghetti pig.
I
Eldrazi
hate this
board.
damn thing in Puzzle Quest, so yeah.
All right.
Beej knows the spaghetti pig pain.
Let's move on to our next green card, the Guardian Project.
Wait, what?
This is a 4 mana enchantment for 3 and a green. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. I'm going to throw this to Jer.
Yeah, so the only deck I can see this in is Druid Tribal, probably not Hoof. It's just another whenever you play a creature, you draw a card type effect, and it's cheaper than some of the ones we're already playing. So, get in.
This is one of these interesting cards where I think there's kind of like this valley shape of enthusiasm. I think a lot of people read this card, and you might be a commander player, like this card's absurd. We're gonna get so much value and everything goes. And you start up there really excited, and then really enfranchised players in the format go, it's a 4-mana enchantment that doesn't do anything. I don't know if I can afford to take a turn off. I'm going to die. This seems really tough. And then you get to the other side of the valley and you're like, I'm a combo player and this might have a home in this one particular deck and oh god, and you're just like ski jumping, you're ramping off.
This is when they accept the greed.
So a neat card here. Next up, we have Rampage of the Clans. 4 mana instant for 3 and a green. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller gets a 3/3 Centaur. What do we think of this card? I didn't have a player in mind when I talked about it. I didn't have a deck in mind.
Oh, really?
Huh?
Well, so all right, no, hold me, like, so yeah, like I'm
If
gonna put
only
this,
we had someone here that plays
So
exclusively
if I put this,
art.
I put this in as a sideboard card against eggs. Now you have 33 threes and I'm dead.
It's funny you mentioned
It's
that.
not actually as good against eggs as
Would
it is
you
against
put-
Paradox.
Well, you'd want it more in that.
But
When
if I
you
played this against
mentioned this,
Paradox as well, like, is
Yeah,
this
like-
a good hate card or is this a card that you'd play as a combo player to kill your opponent?
I wouldn't play this with Paradox. I wouldn't play this as your artifact hate card. There are just way too many
Yeah,
good
where
cards.
does this go?
It goes in that like box that you ship off to get credit from another store. But I did think about. I flirted with the idea of including this in eggs.
In eggs,
just
right?
the
Stack all your
EOT.
stuff,
Whoop,
bring all your-
get a
yeah,
bunch of-
right?
I might try it.
I was gonna say,
if
like,
only it made boar tokens.
Well, if it made boar tokens, it's an auto include.
Yeah, I agree.
why if it's boars?
I love a good pig.
Yeah, it's
Just
the best creature type in
Boar
Magic.
is just one of the best creature types, best type of animals out
I
there.
constantly have a boar tribal deck that I'm updating every set.
It gets better every
Flint Hoof
set.
Boar is the commander. Beautiful pig.
Beautiful pig. It brings home the bacon. Next card.
Silhana Wayfinder. For 1 and a green, you get a 2/1 Elf Scout. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land from amongst them and put it onto the top of your library. Oh, I read that wrong.
Yeah.
This card
As soon
is-
as you read that part, you're just
Put
like,
it-
oh no, what? That's not where I want my cards to go.
Why are they doing this?
I thought this was a 2-1 that drew a card and it was
No,
better.
then it would be great. We'd all be on board. All right, carrying on.
Biogenic Ooze.
Oh, yeah.
I skipped this card. So 5 mana 2/2 for 3 green, you get an Ooze. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green Ooze token. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each Ooze you control. For 1 green, create another 2/2 Ooze.
On your end step.
Well, no, you create the ooze whenever.
Yeah, I know, but
On your end step, you get, everything gets bigger.
Okay.
Well, the
Six-
oozes get bigger
okay, the floor on this is 6 power for 5.
across 2/3/3 bonus. So I
Floor
included.
is it gets shocked immediately.
Yeah,
and then
that's
you have
the
a 2/2.
real thing that happens here. Okay, so I included this because it's 5 mana, comes off curve of opposition, and you just start pooping
That's
out.
our baseline now? Off curve on opposition?
Look, opposition is a great card.
It doesn't see enough play.
It absolutely doesn't see enough play. And anytime you get cards like this, I've even thought about this in certain builds of Hoof. Like there's a density of these 5-drop creatures, 4-drop creatures that can that allow Hoof to potentially better take advantage of Eldritch Evolution.
Yep.
And just provides more of a widespread, going back to the old days when we were casting Wolfbriar Elemental and like,
Multi-kicker.
Lisa Lana Huntmaster, just like going wide because Wraths are at
Queen.
an all-time low right now.
They sure are.
And it's like there's enough stats on this card, and that if you untap with it, you're probably winning this game.
Yeah,
Right? Like it is a little susceptible to removal, admittedly, but I think the upside is enough to justify giving this a shot.
All right, and the last card we're going to talk about today is Wilderness Reclamation. 4 mana enchantment for 3 and a green. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Alex is making a face. I agree with Alex's face. Ben, you added this card.
Jer?
What? Wow.
Me?
Ben.
Wow.
Okay. Sorry, Beej.
Like, did you remember why you added this card?
Well, no, I have an idea. So this is a very powerful effect. There are instant speed time walks, one of them, but
No, there's multiple.
there's multiple, but I think cards like this are worth talking about. Maybe not when we're at the very end of an episode because there's a lot to theory craft that could eventually
head
just
hurts.
end up with like, hey, let's
Yeah.
not play this, but. Untapping all your lands on your end step can be pretty big with a bunch of utility lands, with a bunch of time walks,
also
land untappers.
I also think eventually if you have enough untap either on your end step or your opponent's untap, you get to untap with your opponent. You get to play just like a high enough density of ramp and draw spells that there's a deck that is just based around doing that.
You can already create a loop with this card in Curb. It does require a Quicken, but you can do it. Yeah. Don't give me that look.
What's the loop?
Well, I mean, you don't even need Quicken. You can just like Nexus of Fate, Mystical Tutor, Seasons Past,
That's it.
draw spell. Yeah, you don't need much.
right.
You don't need much to get this going, but whether or not it's worth it is the real question.
Yes.
Well, friends, that is going to be our set review for today. So let us move on to our typical closing segment, Powerful Magic. Bear, 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 bear. Up today, I have Jer. Jer's going to tell us a story. I want to hear the story.
Yeah, so last weekend we played our first Highlander double up event of the year. So it's worth more QPs towards qualifying to the season and year end things. I brought a really spicy deck. I messaged Ben the night before and I was like, Ben, I don't know what to play. What should I play? He's like, play Is It Tempo? And I'm like, maybe. He's like, no. Play like Is It Blitz Tempo? And I'm like, go on. And he's like, play 30 lands. And I'm like, sold. So
30
Well, no, I wanted
Is
you to
it
play
tempo?
like 28 lands.
yeah, he's right. And I was like, I was gonna play 32, so I cut it in the middle.
All
And
right.
played 30. But yeah, so I played like every cantrip imaginable. I even played Overmaster, which is definitely the spiciest cantrip in the deck. Overmaster is a 1-red sorcery. it reads, the next instant or sorcery spell you play this turn can't be countered by spells or abilities. Draw a card.
Great art.
So when you play this card, lots of times blue players panic and just like force of will it.
You're like, they're
Just
going to
'cause
combo me out.
They don't know what you're
Oh
gonna
my
do.
goodness,
So you're just,
okay.
You've just been like casting like Serum Vision, Sleight of Hand, and then on turn 3 you just cast Overmaster, and they're like force of will.
Like lightning bolt.
And you just look at them and you're like, all right, I'll play Delver and Monastery Swift Spear, attack you for 1. So that's the deck I was playing. The spicy story comes from the top 8. First round of top 8. It was game 1. I snuck into top 8 with I had the best breakers of the 3/2s, so
Sure.
I snuck into 8th. My opponent's at 14. I have Soulscar Mage and Monastery Swift Spear in play, which are both 1 mana 1/2s with prowess.
Yeah.
And my opponent has a Duskwatch Recruiter, which is a 2/2 with a nice activated ability,
Yep.
and Fyndhorn Elves they just played. I know they have Academy Rector in their hand. They're on Sandy B.
They're on Sandy B.
And I know they have Academy Rector from a previous Gitaxian Probe, and they just missed their land drop to play this Fyndhorn Elf. So I know Rector's coming next turn. And in my hand, I have Forked Bolt, which is a 1 mana, deal 2 damage divided as you choose sorcery. Gut Shot, which is a Phyrexian mana, for a single red Phyrexian mana, deal 1 damage to any target. And Lightning Bolt, which is 1 red mana, deal 3 to any target.
Yeah.
Instant. And so
You got some spice.
I was quickly adding up, and I was like, all right, if I fire all these burn spells off upstairs and attack, that's 14 points. That's lethal damage. But Forked Bolt is a sorcery, so I'd have to just like lead off by Forked Bolting them, not neither of their creatures that like are actively very good. And like I know they need in play to cast their spells. And so
It's like obviously pretty suspicious if you go to the dome.
yeah, and so
So the mind game up here, okay.
I tank, and I'm like counting. I'm like, no, all right, next turn, and then I'm like, all right, Forked Bolt you, because I mentioned like, okay, you have to block anyways. Like
Sure.
what I was thinking, I'm like, okay, if I Forked Bolt their creature,
And they block. Yeah, okay, I see what you're doing here.
if I
yeah.
Forked Bolt their creature, then their creature's of the way, then I attack. But if I Forked Bolt them, they have to block, but they don't know it. So my Forked Bolt is essentially killing one of their creatures anyways.
All right.
So I Forked Bolt them after like muttering some weird things, and I attack, and then they look at me kind of funny because they're like, Forked Bolt me, and I'm like, yep, upstairs. Send the message, and then I like just cram into the red zone, and then they're like looking because like they can't block with their elf because then they can't cast Rector.
Yeah.
And Duskwatch Recruiter is like a really good creature,
Yeah.
so I figured they don't want to chump block.
Yeah.
Because now because of prowess, both these creatures are 2/3, so like no blocks, and I only had 1 more red mana available, so I'm like Lightning Bolt you, pay 2 life, Gut Shot you, and then like right down they're at 8 now because they're at 12 from the Forked Bolt.
Yeah.
9 from the Lightning Bolt, and then 8 from the Gut Shot, and that's 3 prowess triggers for each of my 1/2 creatures, each 4 power. That's 8 more. So I got to steal a game from my opponent that they never thought they were losing.
No one expects
Dead out of
the gut
nowhere.
shot.
Gut
Yeah.
shot. I don't think people will expect you to play gut shot. in
No,
Highlander.
especially
We
not
talk about it a
especially not
lot.
paying 2 life to deal 1 to your opponent.
Yeah, that's really spicy. Well, friends, that's about going to wrap it up for our episode today. Look out for next week's episode where we review the remaining cards, particularly the gold cards. And as always, with our set review, if there's a card that you want us to talk about that we think we missed in WUBRG, let us know in the comments down below. Because, we passed it over, but maybe there's something that you think warrants a discussion. We'd love to hear from it. Reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you with your support over at the Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.